Welcome to the Rob Breaux Show. I am Rob Breaux. He is Carson Robinson. I am the host. You are the co-host. You can co-host today by commenting below on the starting line chat line. The starting line chat line brought it to you by Starting Line Counseling, startinglinecounseling.com. We'll talk about them a little bit later. We're also in the Diversified Lenders Studio. Turn your accounts receivable into cash. Visit them at diversifiedlenders.com. They do so much more than just that. You need some money for your business, contact Diversified Lenders. They can get you hooked up. Carson, how you doing, man? It's been a week.
Been good, man. Been good. Busy, but good.
Been a good week for you?
Yeah, I mean, we're running our fall baseball league right now over there. So,
oh, nice.
The Pops and I have been busy, but yeah, and then busy in the real estate business too. So, been a long week for realtors. Our MLS system got hacked last week, so there's been a lot of different things going on in the real estate world for sure.
Hey, you getting hacked?
Yeah, I got hacked. Just straight up, somebody just jacked it.
So
can't even use it anymore.
All realtors are having to go through this?
Yeah, whoever uses the system that we use. Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah, a lot of realtors. Not just Lubbock, not just in Lubbock. But, yeah, there you go. There's your realtor news for the week.
Dang.
And rates still are pretty high.
I hadn't known that. Yeah, I'm not shopping, but
yeah,
I had heard that.
Yeah.
Also pretty high, the Texas Rangers. They had a good week. Can't quite get the sweep a couple of times, but hey, we've talked about this before. If you can go 2-3 against anybody, you'll take it. If it is the A's, if it's the Dodgers, if it's the Braves, if it's the Marlins, whoever you're playing, if you can win 2 out of 3, it's a good weekend. Is it a great weekend? Not always. It would be a great weekend against the Braves. It's not a great weekend against the A's, but it's a pretty damn good weekend. And he did that a couple of times this week to stay above the Astros, which the Astros are just as hot as you are, except for about 2 games. But you are blazing hot as the Texas Rangers. What do you think about this week? Some of the performances, Max Scherzer, Montgomery, how have they been? They look pretty damn good. Like I've seen since the trade deadline, your bullpen and starting rotation has like a 1.4 ERA or something crazy.
Is that good?
Is that good? Yeah. pretty good.
Yeah, Scherzer and Montgomery were great additions. I mean, here's the thing. If you can, ESPN and any standings that you look at, they have what you have done in your last 10. If you can continue to have that 7-3 mark, 6-4 mark in your last 10, you'll win the division.
8-2.
Yeah, 8-2 would be a lot better.
That's what they were in their last 10, yeah.
But, if you can do that and keep that pace, I don't know that the Astros can be, 9-1 through their last 10 for the next month. Like, I think at some point the Astros are going to lose a series. At some point, you're probably going to lose a series too here down the stretch, and it's going to get close. The Astros may take a lead in the division at a half of a game or a full game maybe. But I don't see the Rangers just giving in at that point. And because with Scherzer in the starting rotation, with the way he's been throwing the baseball, Jordan Montgomery, obviously great additions right there. You just need them to continue doing the things they're doing. And then it'd be great to get Evaldi back off the 10-day IL once he comes back. Those little things like that. And to get Evaldi back to make that push at the end of the year and into the playoffs, I think the Rangers win this division. And it'll probably be close. It'll be a game and a half, I think. It'll come down to the last week of the season. You're not going to clinch anything, before the last series of the year. But I really, really like the way that this starting rotation is adding up, especially if you can get healthy. And that's the thing. If you can get Evaldi healthy, love the way that looks. The back end of the bullpen is pretty daggum good right now. I mean, it's hard to beat Aroldis Chapman and Matt Smith. Or Will Smith. It just is.
Smith, yeah.
Will Smith.
It's
just hard to beat him. It's a sick 1-2 punch, especially left-handers.
Coming up, the Brewers, they start that series tonight, and then they go Arizona for 2, Twins for 3, 4, Mets for 3. let's just stick with the Brewers and the D-backs because we'll be back by then. I mean, 4 out of 5 there.
Yeah, you would hope. I mean, the Brewers are a team that they're at the top of their division too. They want to win their division just as bad as you do. So they've got a lot on the line here towards the end of the year. The Chicago Cubs have started making a little bit of a comeback. The Cubs, for how bad they were early in the year, the Cubs have a chance to win the NL Central.
They were
Like
so bad.
they're 2 games back from the Brewers right now in the NL Central. So, I think Marcus Stroman's been a big part of that for the Cubs.
Your favorite player?
Yeah, my favorite player. Gotta love him. I did see him throw a 1-hitter the day that we were in Chicago, so I'll give him that. He was fantastic that day against one of the best teams in baseball in the Tampa Bay Rays. But yeah, I think that the Brewers series will be a great series. The Diamondbacks, they have good starting rotation at the top. If you face Zach Gallen, if you catch him and the other 2 arms that are at the top of that rotation, it'll be interesting to see how that series lines up. It should be some great starting pitching, especially, and the Brewers have good starting pitching as well. So it just all adds up to what can the Rangers get offensively. The other night they're getting no hit by the Angels, and all of a sudden you start looking like you have a little bit of life, and then the Angels beat you. And sometimes baseball just goes like that. I'm just glad you didn't get no hit because it would stink for a division leading team to get no hit by a guy, not even a top tier guy.
Not Ohtani.
No, it was. I can't even remember who was pitching now.
It's Brandon
Detmers.
Woodruff. Tonight it's Brandon Woodruff versus Andrew Heaney. Woodruff is 2-1 with a 1.99 ERA and 8.4 WHIP. Andrew Heaney 9-6, 4.17 ERA with a 1.31 WHIP. He struck out 119. Woodruff doesn't seem like he's pitched many games. I know the record's 2-1, but he only has 26 strikeouts on the year. So small sample size there for Woodruff. But for Heaney, the last time he was out, they recognized that he was not going to pitch well today, and they yanked him early, like in the second inning. I think the bases were loaded, but they had a matchup they liked with Grant Anderson, I believe. They brought him in. They went and bullpen the full day. Is this going to be the rest of the year? Are they just going to have Andrew Heaney watch? If he's got his stuff, they'll leave him in because he's probably going to throw a shutout through 6 or 7 innings. But if he's not on, they're just going to yank him in the second.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those deals where Heaney is probably the guy that's on the shortest leash of anybody that's a starter right now for the Rangers. And Bruce Bochy's dealt with this in the past with some of it when he was in San Francisco towards the end of his tenure there. They started using some, starters that you hope to get you through at least one time through the order, maybe 2 times through the order. But if you don't have it early, he's going to go get somebody in the bullpen. And especially when Evaldi gets back, when you have a full, the starting rotation is full and you have 6 basically starters, I think Heaney moves back to the bullpen, maybe becomes a spot starter here and there for you. But yeah, I think that Heaney's got a really short leash right now. If he's got it, he's really good because he spins the ball at a high rate. The rotation is good. Whenever he's really good, you can tell because you can tell by his spin rate if he's going to be good today or not. Which is crazy to say this, how the game has changed. You can just tell by a guy's spin rate whether he's got it or not today.
Right.
Whenever I played, none of that was even talked about hardly. It was just barely starting to get into the mainstream. But I think, yeah, Heaney's got a short leash. And then with Brandon Woodruff, he's one of those guys. He's been hurt all year for the Brewers. He's been on the 15-day, and they thought he was going to come back, and they put him on the 15-day. Then they put him on a 10-day IL stint, and he's gone down to the majors and to the minors and had to do some rehab stint stuff. So Woodruff's kind of a wild card. He's been good in his career. But it's just, he's one of those guys too, that you don't know what you're exactly going to get because he just got a short sample size this year. Just 3 starts.
The Brewers just got swept.
Yeah, that's what allowed the Cubs to have a chance.
So they're coming off the sweep here. And I believe, to the Dodgers. So no shame in getting swept by the Dodgers there, but
no.
65-57.
Dodgers, though.
They did at home.
Mm-hmm.
I think that one is in Los Angeles. But they're also in the midst of a 9-day road trip because this will be their third series in a row on the road. They swept the White Sox, got swept by the Dodgers, so they're 3-3 on the road here. I like the Rangers' chances. The Rangers finishing off this homestand, and then they will travel to Arizona to be against the Diamondbacks. So there you go for that. It is pregame happy hour tonight at the ballpark. Nolan Ryan baseball card bobblehead tomorrow. So there you go. If you're in the Arlington area. All right. Any final thoughts on the Rangers the next couple of days before we get back into it? Let's talk a little Texas Tech football.
No, just hope Josh Young gets back sooner than later.
That would be nice. Jonah Heim has been a surprise.
Yeah,
a little rusty on his way back, but
yeah,
he came back, and maybe that's just because he doesn't get to switch hit. He's seeing pitchers for the first time all year. Righty lefty from his lefty position. Maybe he really has leaned on that switch hitting and needs it. You get the righty lefty matchup. I would like to see his splits. He could just be rusty. I could be talking out of my butt, but
you'd like to see his splits as far as how he faces right-handers when he hits left-handed, or
I'm sure we can find that.
Yeah, I bet we can. It's pretty simple.
The last 2 weeks.
Yep.
But he is back, and he came back a lot sooner than I thought.
And
so maybe Josh Young can too.
And with Jonah Heim, we talked about Mitch Garver having to step in and fill that role and be good. And Mitch Garver's been good. I think Mitch Garver's exceeded expectations. So for me, to be honest,
sure.
I mean, I think for everybody, really. And for Mitch, I think for Garver, it was one of those deals where being back in that routine of being the guy behind the plate every day and then being the guy in the middle of the order too, versus being the DH just sitting in the 7 or the 8 hole is a big difference. And sometimes guys thrive on stuff like that. And sometimes they need that repetition and the things to keep them in a ball game other than being a DH. Being a DH is tough, man. David Ortiz made it look easy, but it ain't easy because you have to sit in the dugout for a whole inning, a whole half inning, and then you got to wait till you hit. And that's it. That's all you do. And for some guys, they can do it. For others, it's tough, especially for a catcher that's involved in everything. It's tough to be a designated hitter. So I think Garver, the best thing for him has been being able to catch every single day. And then, maybe with Jonah Heim and him back in the lineup, that can boost the Rangers to win the division and then hold on for Josh Young. Hopefully he gets back earlier than expected.
That would be nice.
I think Josh is going to try because he already said it, point blank, period. I will be back earlier than they said I was going to be back.
Let's go to the starting line chat line. Roy says, let's go. Spelled the right way. Michael says, don't the Chicago Cubs have a really nice spring training field in the Big 12 state? Yes, they do.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do.
A Big 12 state. Alan, good question and a statement. Thoughts on Jack Leiter throwing in Arlington this week? Feels like he's a head case. That was interesting. Did you see his throwing session in Arlington?
I did not see that.
They had the music on. They were letting him throw. He was hit by, not hit by, but guys were hitting off of him.
What, the baseball factory kids?
It was Austin Hedges and Brad Miller, I think.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Taking cuts off of him. It was a very short clip that somebody put out, but it was announced that he was throwing in Arlington in front of, I guess, the scouts and front office.
That's probably what it was. They wanted to see him throw and see where, because like we talked about, it's mechanics. It's his mechanics that are causing his issues. It's not like, arm troubles or anything like that. I think it comes down to mechanics, and you want your top tier guys, not that the guys in the minor leagues aren't able to develop you and see that your mechanics are bad, but when you spend that much money on a guy, you want to put him in front of Mike Maddox and all those guys and get their opinions and see what they want to say and what they see. And I think that's why he was throwing in Arlington. And yeah, he's a head case. All pitchers are head cases. I mean, I can say that from experience.
Yeah, well,
from experience.
All those guys, yeah.
We all talk to ourselves. That's for sure. Lefties are even worse.
Mad Max Scherzer.
Scherzer's just crazy, man. I think he's just crazy, and that's why he's such a good pitcher. I think that's why they call him Mad Max.
Yeah, the Jack Leiter thing was interesting. And all of what you just said, I'm sure, is completely accurate. But also to just not be pitching in the minors and then to come up and have a bullpen session or whatever it was, whatever you want to call it, there in front of all the scouts and coaches, it just seems like, honestly, not a last resort, but like, all right, we got to see he's doing something, or else we're going to trade him in the offseason.
Well, and I think that's where your chips, they're on the table right now. And if you're the Rangers, if he can't figure this thing out, then, like I just said, you spent a bunch of money on this kid.
Yeah.
You've got to get a return on your investment if you possibly can while the money's still out there to get, while he's still got, his name's at the top of prospect lists. So I think if it ain't going to work for you, then maybe it's time to try and get something out of it, But I don't know what other teams might be able to look into and see, what's going on with him and why he's not pitching in the minors, but he's in Arlington pitching. Like that's going to raise some red flags for sure.
My dream scenario is that he was up for an audition for the bullpen.
I agree. I mean, he throws 98, 99 miles an hour plus. Yeah. In college at Vanderbilt, he had great stuff. I mean, he had electric stuff. And there were some days where he didn't have anything. And his fastball would move down to 94, 95, and he'd be very, very hittable. So I think that's where Jack Leiter needs to be, is more consistent. And maybe being in the bullpen, getting some, time in the big leagues in the pen will help that young man. I don't know. But
I mean, you see that a lot. A starting pitcher, a future starting pitcher brings up for the bullpen in September. At the end of the year, you get that the big league feel. You're not pitching every day. You don't have to pitch every day. You're pitching maybe every 3 or 4 days. It's not a heavy load.
Yeah.
You're just there to spot the bullpen. Now, what's different now, and I wouldn't say this for Jack Leiter if the minor league season was still going. The minor league season ends later than it used to.
Right.
You don't really have the opportunity to bring up everybody like you used to.
It ends in the middle of September now.
So, but with Jack Leiter, he's not throwing.
Yeah.
Like you're not taking him away from starting in the minors right now. You're just having him throw again. And it's a relatively, I'm not going to say low impact because you're in a pennant race. It's high impact inning.
Yeah, it is.
But if you could find some spots where you're up 6 and have him throw once a week in the major league, I don't know. I just didn't feel like.
Yeah, especially when the rosters expand.
Yeah. When they expand, not right now.
Yeah, not right now, yeah.
You're not bringing a guy down just to put up Jack Leiter, but I don't know. If he's healthy, I think he should get a shot.
Yeah.
Just see what he does. I don't know.
Yeah, it couldn't hurt. I mean, especially in those situations. So it can't be any worse than Jose Leclerc was early. That's for sure.
All right.
Before we get off of baseball, just want to say another Red Raiders in the big leagues.
And had a great debut. Well, had a pretty solid debut.
Solid. Let's go with solid.
Struck out 2.
Yeah.
Did give up the solo bomb.
Yeah.
But who doesn't?
Yeah, who doesn't give up bombs in the big leagues these days?
Who amongst us hasn't given up a bomb in their lifetime? I mean, I haven't, but I've never pitched.
I've given up more than my share for you and me both.
But the whammer looked good. The off speed, the changeup, the slider, all looked good. The fastball is fastballing.
Yeah.
Struck out 2.
Looked like Johnny Mac.
Looked like, and you know what? If you had told me that John McMillan was going to be up before some of these other guys, I would have said you were crazy. But hey, he's made it.
And if skip AAA.
Skip AAA, yeah. Got a shot. Now, the Royals aren't very good. You got to see what you have. And that's a good spot for John McMillan, but I thought he had a great debut.
Yeah.
I know he had the one bad pitch, but just for him, I mean, 2 strikeouts, your stuff looked good. He was effectively wild.
As usual.
And he didn't walk anybody.
Yeah, that's big. That's big for him. That's what I was hoping he would do, is just pound the strike zone. Sometimes when you're in the big leagues and you pound the strike zone, you're going to get hit sometimes. And sometimes it's going to go out of the ballpark, especially when you throw that hard. So it happens. Doesn't help his ERA any, obviously, but nobody cares about ERAs anymore. It's all about your walks, hits per innings pitched, and all of those things. So, but yeah, love to see another Red Raider in the show. That's awesome.
I had forgotten about that, but good on you for remembering that. The whammer. I don't really remember that being used a whole lot when he was at Texas Tech. I guess it was.
I mean, I think it was only used when he was at the plate. I don't know that.
Maybe Jeff Haxton used it quite a bit.
Yeah, Jeff Haxton used it a ton.
Whammer.
He just called him Whammer.
I thought it was Big John because that's what he came out to as.
Big John was Johnny Mack was my favorite one, but yeah, he's
future Texas Ranger trade deadline acquisition.
How cool would that be?
That would be awesome.
That'd be pretty cool.
And I hope he carves a role, man. In the major leagues, you could be in the bullpen for a long time. If you throw like that, you can carve a role. You could play for 10 different teams and have a really long major league career if you can keep it up.
Yeah, make good money doing it.
Oh, absolutely. Live in a bunch of places.
Yeah.
Be great for him. All right, let's do a little bit of Texas Tech football here. About 22 minutes in. We'll go for, 45-ish. We'll see. We try to keep these to 30, but I can already tell we're going to go past that. The Texas Tech Red Raider football team in fall camp. We had spring a long time ago. But the rankings have started to come out. The coaches poll, they were at 24. The AP poll, I put it at over under 22 and a half, maybe. I took the under, you took the over. It was the over. And it was 20.
I said receiving votes at first, and then you talked me into it.
Well, you just took the over, so I'm going to give it to you. The receiving votes, they were 26th, basically, because they were the top team receiving votes.
Yeah. And it was like 34 more votes than the other team, which I think was South Carolina or UCLA.
Yeah, they were quite obviously the 26th.
Right.
That brings me to this question, though.
Yeah. It's just, it's one of those deals where, like, Tulane's in the top 25.
Yeah. Ole Miss, who you beat. Oklahoma, who you beat.
Yeah. I mean, there's some stuff in there that you kind of go,
You should be ranked ahead of Oklahoma.
Tell Tulane to come to the Big 12 and then see what they were ranked in the preseason. Yeah.
Now, Tulane had a really good year.
Tulane had a great year. Yeah. I don't want to take anything from that.
They beat USC. Well,
right.
Did they win that bowl game?
I can't remember. It's been too long, man.
Either way, they were really competitive against Power 5 teams. So, but that brings me to this question here. With all of the dark horse talk for Texas Tech, with all of the rankings that we did see, Shahan at 19, Brett McMurphy at 11 for Texas Tech, and all of the rankings you did get, and to be at 26th preseason, are you a dark horse to be competitive in the Big 12, or are you just going to be competitive? Is it past dark horse season into just you're one of the favorites?
I think you're one of the teams that, I mean, maybe you can say a dark horse just because of how Texas Tech has not been so successful lately, but I think the national media, what they're saying is they think Texas Tech is one of the top 5 teams in this conference in the Big 12. And anytime you're ranked in the top 5 in a conference, that just pretty much means they think you have a chance to win the conference if things go right for you. So I don't know that they would be a dark horse. Maybe if they were picked like 8th or 9th in the conference preseason, and then they, finish in the top half and they're really, really competitive.
Picked 4th.
Yeah, picked 4th. So I don't see Texas Tech as a dark horse by any means. Some people will say that, and I saw this the other day on College Football Live on ESPN. I think it was Heather Dinich that they were going over, who their picks to be in the college football playoff were and win their conferences, and she had Texas Tech in there. as a sneaky. She said that her dark horse for the college football playoff would be Texas Tech and Joey McGuire.
Now,
She said
that's certainly for the championship.
That's
I'm talking Big 12.
No, I know. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I was going. Yeah, she may be.
Yeah.
She's riding in on the Joey McGuire train, which you don't mind her just putting Texas Tech out there. It helps
No.
Texas Tech.
Yeah.
The more publicity you can get, the better. But
Alan says Tech literally has a dark horse as part of their mascot.
That's my favorite part.
That's true.
The horse is the best part. I mean, the masked rider on top of the horse is great. But
is Centennial Champion getting a second season?
I don't remember there being another horse coming in this year. So
me neither. But do you remember the Centennial Champion struggles last year?
Well, this is the first year. Rookie year is always tough.
It was tough the entire season for him or her. I don't know. All right. So let's get into the team, do some position previews here. We'll start with the offense and preview the quarterback position. Tyler Shuck, 7-0 when he starts and finishes a game, 8-1 in games he competes in. 8-2? 8-2. Competed in the TCU game and the Texas game, both losses. Murray State, a win, but did not finish that game. And then 7-0 elsewhere in games he started and finished. Bowl game, 6 regular season games. So Tyler Shuck has won a bunch of games at Texas Tech. He played in 7 games at Oregon, started all 7. Did not play the entire game the last couple, as he was slowly getting replaced by Anthony Brown in Oregon. But here you go, all of a sudden, a fifth-year senior who's played in at least 5 games, 4 games every season in the last 3. He is experienced. He is older. Like, all of a sudden, you have this guy, Tyler Shuck, who we did not think would be here past 1 year, in year 3, and the first time he's going to have back-to-back offensive coordinators.
Yeah. It's weird to say, but I think the best thing that happened for Tyler Shuck is that the injuries that happened the first 2 years. It sounds weird to say that, and if you listen to the point, I think he needed to grow in maturity as a quarterback. He needed to grow as a leader as a quarterback for that to translate to the next level, to the NFL. And I don't think he would have done that and been the top tier, kind of. If he plays well this year, he could be a first round draft pick in the NFL draft. If he plays well, that's what I'm saying. If he plays the way that some people
season,
huh?
If he has a Bailey Zappi season.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. If he has a season that just goes off the rails and he plays out of his mind and is the quarterback that we all think he might be, then he could possibly be a top round draft pick. And I don't think he was not going to be this player 2 years ago. And I don't think he ever would have developed into being that kind of player in the NFL had he not gotten hurt and gotten drafted in the 5th or 6th round and then sat as a backup or a third string quarterback somewhere for the last 3 years. And then he decided to give it up. I don't think that he would have been the quarterback then that he would be now, because he has that experience in the college game. He's been around it. Zach Kittley has been great for Tyler Shuck. I think he's just been phenomenal. I mean, obviously there's something there. Zach Kittley's gotten how many quarterbacks in the NFL right now, and Bailey Zappi's one of them. And a guy in Bailey Zappi who shouldn't even have sniffed the NFL, to be honest with you. I mean, it's true.
Well,
but the way that he matured as a quarterback under Zach Kittley is awesome.
Sure.
And he worked his rear end off to get there, and he deserves to be in the NFL. But Zach Kittley had a lot to do with that, and the maturity level and teaching the kid the offense and teaching him how to go about his job and doing those things the right way. So I think Tyler Shuck is by far a better quarterback now than he would have been had he not gotten injured in the 2 years. Obviously, injuries hamper you a little bit. But I think Tyler Shuck's stronger now than he ever has been, to be honest.
And I agree. And I think he's really bought into being a Red Raider. I didn't think he had in his first 2 seasons, but when he finally got the job and was healthy at the end of the season and started 4 straight games, he really impressed me. And I know that was not the weakest part of your schedule because you still had to play Iowa State's defense. I know they didn't finish with a great record, but Iowa State's defense was one of the best, if not the best, in the conference. You outscored them. I'm not saying you went out and dominated that game, but you outscored them because your defense stood tall as well. And then you go out and just dominate the bowl game, and it's the Tyler Shuck show with 230 yards passing and 100 yards rushing, 27 carries or whatever it was. Just a ridiculous showing from him. If Tyler Shuck can stay healthy, all of a sudden he's going to be one of the best Red Raider quarterbacks since, Patrick and Graham Harrell.
Yeah, I was going to say, it feels like it's going to be a Graham Harrell year.
If he can win 10 games, he's going to go down in the history with those guys in the early 2000s that you think about with Texas Tech and the air raid.
Yeah, it feels like this is his Graham Harrell year. Like Graham Harrell had a pretty good junior year. And then Graham's senior year, it was kind of ramped up to.
Technically, his stats were better his junior year.
Yeah, his junior year, yeah.
He went 11-1.
Yeah,
absolutely.
But yeah, I think that the maturity. I think Tyler Shuck is just ready to be a Big 12 Power 5, starting quarterback, and not just a starting quarterback, but a star quarterback in the conference. Not just at Texas Tech, but maybe the best quarterback in the conference by the time all things are said and done. He has the right things are in place for him to be that successful. Now he's just got to go out and do it.
Where would you put him in the conference? Are you prepared to answer that? Do you need to do some research?
I mean, obviously Quinn Ewers is the guy in all the national media that gets all the attention and all of this. And Quinn Ewers is a good player. Saw him play in high school. I've, watched him at Texas last year, even though he was hurt a little bit. I think Quinn Ewers is a good quarterback. Other quarterbacks in the Big 12, just off the top of my head without looking at a piece of paper and realizing it.
You have Dylan Gabriel at Oklahoma.
Yeah, Dylan Gabriel at Oklahoma. I think Tyler Shuck's better than him.
John Rice Plumlee at
Tyler Shuck's better than him. BYU, I don't know who their quarterback's going to be this year.
Slovis.
Yeah, Slovis, that's right. And no, you never know what you're getting out of that kid. It's his 5th school in 5 years.
No, that's JT Daniels.
Yeah, that's well, both of them started at USC.
Slovis is third.
Yeah, but I think Tyler Shuck is 1 or 2, maybe 3 if Kansas State's quarterback.
Will Howard.
I mean, Will Howard's had some success in the Big 12.
Jalen Daniels.
Kansas State looks to be good. I think he's better than Jalen Daniels. Jalen Daniels is
preseason player of the year. Jalen Daniels.
Yeah, Jalen Daniels makes some electric plays, and I think people got caught up in Kansas winning ball games last year, and Jalen Daniels made some plays, and sometimes that translates into being a preseason player of the year. I don't know that he has all the talent in the world, and he's got a better, he's more talented than Quinn Ewers and Tyler Shuck. I would put I would put him below those two guys.
I would put Tyler Shuck around 4th or 5th in the conference. I could probably find 3 better than him, but they would be a real struggle. And right. I want to see a complete season. I think Tyler Shuck. I think Tyler Shuck has some flaws. Throwing to the sideline being one of them. You've seen that in his career, throwing a couple of pick sixes. But he also does some things really, really well. He has a great deep ball. And if he can focus on more of that and get the throws over the middle accurately and have some patience now with the offensive line that is much better, we'll talk about them in a second, I think Tyler Shuck really can have a breakout season. Behind him, Baron Morton, who is also very good. I think
he's the best backup quarterback in the country, if you want to ask me.
Has better arm talent than Tyler Shuck.
Yes.
But Tyler Shuck's still ahead of him, I think, mentally, which is why he's the starting quarterback, as far as everything they've said. And then you have Jake Strong. So you're a couple of plays away from playing a true freshman at quarterback. But that is what it is. And hey, knock on wood all you want, but Texas Tech has played 3 quarterbacks the last 2 seasons. and have played 3 quarterbacks more than just one quarterback in the last 5 seasons. So it's not like you've been healthy at quarterback
Right.
at Texas Tech. So you got to list all 3. And crazier things have happened. You've played 4 in a year, right? More often than you've played 1 in the last 5 seasons.
What was it? The year that Patrick got a concussion against Texas, you played 4 quarterbacks that year?
Was Testaverde just a third?
Testaverde, was he just a third in that year?
Maybe so. So you've
Okay.
played 3 quarterbacks.
Well, and then you had Columby,
Jackson Tyner, and Duffy.
Yeah, okay, so 3 there.
And then you had
Sticks and Potts. I don't remember anybody else
Duffy.
playing.
Yeah.
Then you had Mayfield, Webb, and Mahomes.
Roy says it would melt Tech Twitter if even after they announced Shuck as starting quarterback, they sent Morton out for the first game as the starter. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen, but it certainly could. They're talented enough to be the starting quarterback at Texas Tech.
Here's what would be best if they sent them both out in the backfield for the first play of the season.
No.
They send them both out in the backfield for the first play of the season. Then they motion out Baron Morton. Everybody's like, whoa, what's going on?
No, I don't want to see that.
Then they motion out Baron Morton to the sideline and throw a double pass first play of the season.
No, we did all this last year. We had the 2 quarterbacks, the 3 quarterbacks. All 3 are going to play. No, we don't need to see that again.
Well, I don't think Jake Strong is going to touch the field unless something
I'm
drastic
talking about last year where Joey McGuire in every press conference was saying, yeah, we got 3 quarterbacks. All 3 are going to play. No, I don't want to sit there and say both quarterbacks are playing all year. We don't need Baron Morton trying to catch touchdowns in the end zone. We've got JJ Sparkman.
Yeah. JJ Sparkman and a plethora of other guys that can catch a football.
Yeah, you have a bunch of them. We'll talk about them in a second, but you have that 50-50 guy. What would you rather have 6'4" JJ Sparkman or 5'10" Baron Moore? I don't know how tall he is.
Baron's 6'1", 6'2".
Still,
on a good day.
Have him or Sparkman?
Probably Sparkman.
Catching a fade.
I don't know. Baron's a good athlete, man.
He is a good athlete, but
great athlete.
I'd go Sparkman there.
Typical coach's kid.
So there's your sneaky fast.
Mm-hmm.
There's your quarterbacks there. Let's move on to running backs. Taj Brooks, the starter. Cameron Valdez, the second string. But really, in this offense, you're calling them the 1-2 punch. I think they'll both get pretty much even carries. Maybe Taj Brooks gets the load here, but I think you're going to play more than one running back, obviously. What do you think about this as a 1-2 punch and maybe a true thunder and lightning kind of thing for the first time at Texas Tech in a while?
Yeah, I really like this 1-2 punch. And I think I said it, I can't remember when it was, but really love the way that this backfield sets up. Taj Brooks, kind of the punishing, one move type runner, get downhill really quickly, one cut, go. Cameron Valdez is flashy. He is, I want to, just to compare him to someone from recent, Justin Stockton comes to mind because he has that breakaway speed like Justin Stockton had. He has escapability. He can slither out of tackles. He can do all those things. I mean, when he was at Rockdale, man, kid was a beast and nobody could catch him. And Rockdale's got a history of just being one of the top teams in Texas in Class 4A, 5A, whenever they're up and down. But Cameron Valdez is fast. He's flashy. And then Taj Brooks, we know what we're getting from Taj Brooks. I mean, Taj Brooks just looks like a Division I college running back that's going to have a chance to play in the NFL and be on Sundays and carry the rock quite a bit. So he's a workhorse. Taj Brooks could get the ball 25 times a game and not even be upset about it. But last year with he and Sir Roderick, it was kind of thunder and thunder. There was a lot of just heavy up the middle. There wasn't a whole lot of breakaway speed in the two of those guys. But now you have the thunder up the middle, and then you can get Cameron Valdez on the outside. And man, if it opens up, Cameron can sure make a defense hurt real quick.
And you saw it a couple of times last year in the bowl game against TCU. I think maybe he fumbled in the bowl game, but he was like 50 yards downfield.
Yeah.
Whatever it was. But looking good there. Receiver, this could be the deepest part of the roster.
I agree.
You have two deep in starters. I think you have a guy down the depth chart injured right now that could be a future all Big 12 kind of receiver. And that's the guy, as a redshirt freshman who's probably not going to play a bunch this year. So you have that kind of talent down on the depth chart, and you have a bunch of guys in front of him. Dram Bradley, Loic Fouonji, probably the two starters on the outside, though Dre McCray and Jordan Brown have been pushing. Miles Price, Nehemiah Martinez. Then you have the tight ends in Baylor Cupp and Mason Tharp. You just have a bunch of guys who are going to be out there catching balls. Do you have a breakout candidate? I listed J.J. Sparkman as my breakout candidate for this season because I think he's so good at deep balls, and I think Tyler Shuck excels at throwing deep balls to J.J. Sparkman. You saw it at the TCU game where he caught the long ball in the end zone, and then he mossed the guy with Donovan Smith playing quarterback against Mississippi State. So you've seen him getting on. You got mossed, literally. But J.J. Sparkman, I have as my breakout player. Do you have a breakout wide receiver this year, or are you just saying that the guys listed are going to be the starters and they're going to be the guy like Loic Fouonji and Bradley, and Bradley's going to break out even more than he has?
No, you said it right there. And Roy Melton said, we have enough receivers to fill out a 53-man roster. We really do. I mean, it's like the deepest group of guys on campus is the receivers room. And there's so much talent in this receivers room. You look at guys like Nehemiah Martinez, Xavier White, two local products that have just made names for themselves, guys that were under-recruited, underappreciated. Zay went to junior college for his first year of college football, and then he transferred to Texas Tech COVID year. And then Nehemiah Martinez, a kid that walked on, started at New Deal High School, finished at Lubbock Cooper High School. Flashy, quick, strong young man. Just he'll outwork anybody. And there's nobody that Nehemiah Martinez gets outworked by, and that's what's made him a top of the depth chart kind of guy. Nobody saw that coming other than Nehemiah probably. So those two guys really want to see them excel. But and then Loic Fouonji, another local product. I mean, in Midland's local. Everything's West Texas. I know that, but we count Midland or Odessa as being pretty much a local kid around here. And Loic Fouonji, like we've talked about it in the past, Rob, I saw him up close and personal quite a bit, just officiating his games in high school. That kid is a freak athlete. He's fast. He can jump out of a gym. He is, I think, with the eyes that are going to be on Jaron Bradley and some of these other guys, Miles Price too, because Miles Price has the speed that corners and safeties are going to have to, keep in front of them. Loic Fouonji can be that guy in that middle, comes across the middle. If you can't get the deep ball, he's going to catch a lot of passes in that middle zone. And if you want to play zone coverage, Loic Fouonji will eat you up. And if you want to throw jump balls, Loic Fouonji can do that too. And Loic Fouonji is my guy that breaks out this year and just becomes a household name. I think that he can have a huge year this year, especially with eyes on the Jaron Bradleys, with eyes on, the Zay Whites, the J.J. Sparkmans, those kind of guys. And that's not even getting into, the Coy Aiken guy, those kind of guys behind Fouonji. So, but I think Loic has a big year this year. I think that he really turns some heads with what he does in this offense, just because of knowing some of these Big 12 defenses. They don't want to give up the deep ball, especially if you play Iowa State, TCU, West Virginia, those 3-3-5s. When they play that halo over the top coverage with two high safeties or three high safeties, I think that Fouonji in the middle, and then he's got the kind of stuff that he can get away from tackles and make things happen. So really, Fouonji is my guy too. I told you last week, I said I think he could be a dark horse for a run at a Biletnikoff if he could score enough touchdowns. I think he really has that ability to do that.
Yeah, he could be the Bradley Marquez of this offense. Just underneath the draw, the drag. Yeah, he could do it.
Eric Ward comes to mind too.
Yeah, well, he was catching a lot of balls downfield.
He's catching a lot of balls downfield.
Too.
Yeah, he was an animal.
Is Coy going to get on the field this year? Coy Aiken from Stephenville, wide receiver, kick returner, punt returner. I don't think he's going to get in the return game.
Not in the return game now.
And he's hurt right now. But by Tarleton, he should be back, is what Joey McGuire said.
Mm-hmm.
Cracked his collarbone.
Yep. And the return game, it's going to be Miles Price, Nehemiah Martinez,
Dre
McCray, those
Jordan
guys.
Brown.
Yep.
I think Jordan Brown will probably do the kick returns, and Miles Price will do the punt returns.
Yep, I agree. Jordan Brown can fly.
And Miles Price was really good at punt returns last year when they finally gave him the job. And it's like they did.
Well, when he got healthy.
Right. But it's like they didn't want to give the starting wide receivers return duties for several seasons. And then Joey McGuire was like, well, why aren't the best people doing the jobs?
I mean, look at Wes Welker and Danny Amendola. What did they do the whole time they were here? Nothing other than just return kicks and punts for touchdowns.
Right.
Why not put your best athlete back there and get us? What did Hutch Haley used to always tell us whenever we would always pick to receive? What did he say? We don't have to be on offense first. You can take this thing back. we can score before anybody plays offense. Let's do that. I like that idea.
All right, now the final position that we can talk about, the offensive line, should be night and day from last year. You have 5 bona fide starters. You flipped your offensive tackles. Caleb Rogers has played a ton of Big 12 football. And I should say the much maligned Caleb Rogers, because he's taken a lot of crap.
But
I thought he was very good over the last 3 or 4 weeks last year, especially in the bowl game. I thought the offensive line was really good. But they flipped tackles. Monroe Mills is going to play left tackle. Caleb Rogers is going to play right. Then you have Cole Spencer, Dennis Wilburn at the guards, and you have Rusty Stats as the center. And you have Jacoby Jackson as a backup to the guards. I would say if Rusty Stats goes down, Dennis Wilburn goes to center, and you can put Jacoby Jackson in, you're just as good.
Yeah.
I think Jacoby Jackson is really pushed. And then at tackle, I think you have a couple of bona fide backups as well, Keeler and Ty Buchanan both. So this all of a sudden is kind of a deep offensive line room, and it was not last year. It was kind of the guys you had on the field were the ones that were going to be playing, and you kind of had the surprise of Jacoby Jackson kind of play a good season.
Yeah, and that's what, you said it. This is a offensive line that was here. Every single one of these guys was here last year except for Stats. And he's a guy, though, that it won't affect him at all because he's been in this offense before. He was at Western Kentucky where Zach Kitley was before he came here last year. So, and that's why he ended up here, because he and Zach had such a great relationship. And that's why he's going to be your center. That's why he's going to be the captain of the offensive line. He knows everything you need to know. It's not like you're having a guy come in from, Pittsburgh who's never seen this offense in his life. Stats knows this offense probably better than most of the guys that are here at Texas Tech because he ran it for 2 years at Western Kentucky. So, I think this kid's going to be great. And I say kid, he's a senior transfer. He's probably a 5th year, 6th year because of COVID stuff. So I think he's going to add into this offensive line really well. Flipping the tackles is one of the smartest things I've seen them do, to be honest. I really like that they've switched those two guys with Caleb Rogers going to the right side. Doesn't put as much pressure on him being on the right side of the offensive line as he was having, last season, and having that pressure of being the left tackle and all those things that go with that. It's the toughest job in all of football, really, is being the left tackle. So, and especially in the Big 12 with the great pass rushers that you have on the edge in the Big 12 conference.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, that's a tough job. It's a tough task. And I think Monroe Mills can do that. He's going to be great there. Really like the way this offensive line stacks up, especially the starting 5. And then you said it, behind them, there's depth this year, which is so nice to have because I can't remember the last time you had good offensive line depth. Can you? Was that when Dawson Deaton was a freshman or a sophomore? Then he had to come and slide into a starting role his freshman year, and with Jack Anderson and guys like that. But
yeah, you're starting true freshman Jack Anderson the year before.
Yeah.
And then I guess Dawson Deaton coming in, but just because you have a great freshman doesn't mean you have good depth.
Right. And I don't even remember, Mike Leach offenses having great depth at the offensive line position.
Well, they certainly did have more depth than
They had
today
good
because of
talent in the top
portal.
5.
Well,
Yeah,
because
that's
of the
true.
transfer portal, you had guys sticking around.
Right. That's true.
Which would be depth. But now with the transfer portal, it's really hard to keep offensive line depth because if you're not starting, you're leaving.
You're going somewhere else to start. Yeah, that's fact.
So, but you've been able to keep guys around, and you've also had some offensive line transfer out. Ethan Card, I think, finally left, and a couple of those guys, but you've kept enough to look really good, and you still have the guys you're recruiting, but you don't want to start. This is the thing with the transfer portal. You don't want to start an offensive lineman until he's like a redshirt sophomore.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you want guys 3 years in college football before they see the field on the offensive line.
Yeah.
Everywhere else, if you're a redshirt sophomore and you haven't played yet, you're probably not going to play here. But as offensive linemen, you want those guys to be redshirt sophomores and be in the league for 3 years before they really have to go and start.
Yeah.
And it'd be even better if it was a redshirt junior and they got 2 years out of you.
And that's the thing. The offensive line, there's such a huge difference between high school defensive lines and Division I Power 5 conference division line or defensive line.
Yeah.
Like, that's just it's a massive difference. It's a massive difference in what kind of protections you have to run. You're running one of 2 protections in high school football. That's it. Literally, there's one of 2 things you can do.
Yeah.
In college football, there's so many different protections. There's so many different calls. There's so many different, options that you have at the front of the line that you have to have the experience, and you've got to know, and the footwork has to be better. You've got to be quicker. Everybody's quick on the defensive line and in the defensive backfield for that matter. You've got to be able to pick up blitzes. Everything's more complicated on the defensive side of the ball, and it's drawn up that way because they have the personnel to do it. In high school, there's not a whole lot of different packages that are being. Everybody pretty much runs somewhat of the same thing,
right?
In the high school game.
Yeah.
And so, there's a few different looks and packages you can draw up, but not that much. And so, the offensive line, if you're a redshirt, if you're a true freshman and starting, you might be one of, that's Jack Anderson, who was, he was good as a true freshman, but he struggled a little bit too. So, because the game comes faster, it's just that simple. And the only other position is probably at quarterback, where if you don't start as a true freshman, that doesn't mean anything. It just means that you're sitting behind a kid that's probably pretty good too. So I think quarterback and offensive line are the 2 places you have to have a lot of experience at before you can truly be great at it. And this offensive line has the experience. I mean, and you look behind him, Jacoby Jackson, he's a redshirt sophomore. He's been here. This is you talked about it. This is 3rd year on campus. He's been around it. And, you look at a guy like Landon Peterson from Odessa Permian, who's a senior. He's been here for 5 years now. He's 7 foot tall. He's a great guy to have at the depth position.
Yeah.
I mean, he's a big dude. And I think he's gotten a lot better too. He's just not a starter right now. But if he has to slide into a role, I think he can.
Absolutely.
So it's just one of those things where you haven't felt like that in the last few years.
And he has been a starter.
He has been.
Yeah, you have guys that have started games
that
are going to be backups this year.
And they'll probably start some games this year too, because it happened. You're going to get injuries on the offensive line. It's just going to happen.
Yeah.
And these guys are going to come in and fill, and Ty Buchanan, another guy, redshirt sophomore transfer that came in last year, that I think that he can fill a spot too. So I feel really good. If you looked at this, at the 2s on your position sheets, Matt Keeler at the left tackle position, you can move things around too. Obviously it's not just set in stone where they're at.
Right.
But you move some of these guys around and you feel okay or pretty good with the 2s being on the front line, being the number 1. So
I agree.
It's not something where you're like, oh man, stats went down. Who's going to play center? Oh no, who's going to play guard now that we moved, this guy over?
And that is not,
you don't have that feeling this year.
I did not feel that. Yeah, that's what I felt last year.
Yeah,
like I don't know that we had 5 starting offensive linemen last year.
Well, the last 3 years it's felt kind of like that.
And now you feel like you have 7 or 8.
Yeah.
And hopefully in 2 years you feel like you have 10. Next year, you're going to lose the
You're going to
whole.
lose a lot. Yeah, you're
So,
losing every single person except for Monroe Mills.
yeah, except for Monroe Mills, who hopefully will be heading into his third
And
season as
and
a starting
hopefully
back.
if he has a great year this year, he may not be here next year either. You
You
never
got
know.
to beg. You got to beg, man. All right. And Jacoby Jackson will be back. So
Yeah, Jacoby
Pat
Jackson will be back.
Buchanan and all these guys
Yeah,
we just talked about, they're not leaving, but
right.
you're going to lose a lot off this offensive line. You're also going to lose a lot. You're going to lose a running back. You're going to lose a quarterback. You're going to lose a couple of wide receivers. Is this year for Zach Kitley's offense? Is this the year for the offense to take a huge step? And I know Baron Morton will be the quarterback following this year, and we have a lot of faith in him. And you're not going to take a huge step back, but with all of the seniors on this offense, you kind of have to be great, right?
Yeah, you have to be. I mean, it feels like I said, it feels like, and it was Graham's junior year that he had his best year. You're right, and you had a ton of seniors on the offensive line that year. You had a senior in the backfield. You had Michael Crabtree was a junior, but you knew he was going to be done. He wasn't coming back after that year either. You had it felt like that was the year you had to get it done. This kind of feels like one of those years too, even though Baron Morton coming in as starting quarterback next year and the next 2 years, however it's going to be, like, I don't think you lose anything at the starting quarterback position. Not at all, to be honest. I think you are just as good, if not maybe a little bit better by the time Baron's a year older and has more experience. So
Certainly,
but on the
line,
offensive line, you're losing a lot. And so it feels like this year is the year. If you're going to do something special this year, you would have to do something special. And obviously with the transfer portal, offensive line stuff can change and you could feel better about it by this time next year. I mean, but right now it feels like you have the pieces in place on the offense. You've got the receiving core, the running back room sets up really nice with a little bit of, thunder and lightning, as you said. The tight end group, I really love these two tight ends with Tharp and Baylor Cupp. I mean, these two guys, they might be two of the best tight ends in the Big 12. And that's funny to say as a Texas Tech person because we never saw a tight end until Jason Morrow was here. And so I really like the way this all adds up on this offensive side. And then we'll talk about the defense next week, but the defense might be the deepest it's been in a while. So
a lot of seniors on defense too.
A lot of seniors on defense. So it feels like if you're going to do something, this is going to be a year to do it. And you have great recruiting classes coming in. Don't get us wrong.
Sure.
It's going to continue to be that way too under Joey McGuire. But, like we just talked about, freshmen just can't come in and be studs on the offensive line unless they're just this freak.
Right. And you're bringing in some freaks.
Yeah, you're bringing in some really good offensive linemen, not going to lie.
I think year 3 could be viewed as a step back if you do what I think you can do this year.
Well, it could be one of those years, kind of like, Mike Leach had after the Brandon Carters and those guys left after that 2008 season. The next year you were, 8-4, 7-5. What were you the next year? 8-4, which for a Tech team, if you go 8-4 this year, you feel pretty good about it. If you go 7-5 next year, 6-6, you feel okay about it because
if you go 11-1 this year, like in 2008,
I'll take that.
And then go 8-4 the next year because you don't have as many seniors. Then we're feeling
fine. Let's just go to bowl games for the next 10 years, and see where it gets you.
Yeah. All right. Any final
McGuire
thoughts on the offense? And keep Joey McGuire. Yeah.
Keep Joey McGuire. That's issue number one. No, final thoughts on the offense are like what we just talked about. We summed it up pretty much. This is your time. If you're going to do something special on the offensive side, this is probably the year to do it. You have the pieces in place. You've got to, and this is the most cliche thing ever. You got to stay healthy. Like that's number one, key number one right there. Got to stay healthy. But if you don't stay healthy, you do have the guys behind the number ones or twos in the receiving core, especially that can come up and fill roles and not really skip a beat because you have the experience on the offensive line. You have the experience at quarterback. You have the experience in the running back position. All of those things, I think will be a big plus for this Texas Tech offense this year. And Zach Kitley in year 2 of calling the plays and in the Big 12, I think he gets better at his play calling as well. So, I think it all is just, it's all ratcheting up to be a pretty good season for Texas Tech. Now it just all depends on what they can do between the lines.
Just got to go do it.
Just got to go do it. That's all it takes.
Thank you to everyone who commented on the Starting Line chat line. Starting Line Counseling and Consulting is a therapy practice that is 100% telebased. So it's easy to meet with a licensed professional anytime, anywhere. If you can't get out of the office, that's okay. Chase Wade can meet with you telehealth-based. He is the owner and founder of Starting Line Counseling and Consulting. He is a 2-time Texas Tech graduate and a licensed professional counselor with over 10 years of experience as a clinician. Chase believes in establishing an authentic relationship with his clients and helping them set realistic objectives for their goals. Whether you're new to therapy or looking to continue with a new therapist, don't waste any time. Call 325-766-7284 or go to startinglinecounseling.com and schedule a free 15-minute consultation and get started with Chase today. All right, that's it for us. Daniel says, I'm here for the Starting Line chat line.
Love it.
Just missed the rest of the show, but I'm sure you'll catch up. And
you can go back and watch it.
He's a great commenter.
Yeah, you can go back and watch it.
Legendary Mr. Lockhart there from the text line back in the day. All right, that's it for me. That's it for Carson. We'll see you next time.
Peace.